before we get started with this project, I'm gonna have to go and change from this to this because we're doing a little painting today. Okay, so we're taking on a project today. We've got a door that we're gonna paint. I've already painted a couple, and this is my last one. We have got a new metal door here. Okay, this is what I call slick metal. There's no texture to it. There's no grain. It's just a slick metal, and there's a few things that we're gonna have to do to make the paint adhere to it properly. So here. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna have to do with this slick metal door is we've got to have something for the paint to adhere to. And in order for this paint to adhere to this slick metal door, there's two things we're gonna have to do. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna sand it. Yes, we're gonna sand a metal door. I know that's kind of odd, but I'm using a 320 grit sandpaper. All you're trying to do is just scuff it up. You could even use a scuff pad. I've got like a little foam sanding block here, and I've got my sandpaper, so I'm just gonna do it enough to where it'll kind of give it some texture for my paint to adhere to the door. So here we go. So the next step after we've got it sanded, we've kind of roughed it up some. I just used the 320 grit sandpaper with a block, and you can just barely feel that it has a little bit of a texture. So now the next step will be to prime it. And my go-to primer is this Zinsser. It's a primer that's made for several different types of surfaces, including the metal, plastic, or you can put it on wood. Okay, but so before I get started, I'm gonna put some of this blue painter's tape. Thankfully, there's no grids to deal with, so I'm just going to put it around the four sides, and I'm gonna do some around the knobs and the lock, and that's basically it. So here we go. We got a lot done. It made us stay in the house, so I was able to get a lot of stuff done in the house instead of being outside all the time. I was enjoying the rain. We need some more though. Our pond still needs to be filled up. Okay, so now what we're gonna tackle is we're gonna put on the primer. This is gonna help that paint to adhere to this door. So here we go. hard to even tell I put any primer on it because the primer's almost the same color as the door. But I did. Okay, so we got the primer on. It's hard to tell, but it is gray, just like the door. But we've just slapped it on there. It doesn't have to be real nice and neat. You can put it on there just as long as you got coverage. You just want it to have something that the paint can bite to. The key is to put thin coats of paint. Like I tell people, it's gonna look worse before it looks better. Trust me, putting thin coats on these is the key. It's probably gonna take about 3 coats of very thin coats of paint, but it's well worth it. If you try to put it on too heavy, you can cause it to run. The paint will run in some of these corners, and you don't want that. So if you put 3 thin coats, you're able to put 1 coat on right after another. Okay, so I want your honest opinion. What do you think? Looks horrible, huh? Remember, this is the first coat. It's gonna look bad, but don't worry about it. We're putting a couple more on. Remember, the key is thin coats. So let's get to applying that second coat. Love me some strawberries. All right, moving on to coat number 2. Here's a painter's tip. Always keep on hand an artist brush. It's just a tiny little brush that gets in very small places because there's always some. So on this particular job, there's some around the edge of the door and the hinges, and I'll show you. On the edge of this door, it's hard to tell, but like this crack, you can see the light gray. This artist brush can get in all those little crevices. And like right here, that's hard to get with a 2-inch brush, but it's very easy to paint with an artist brush. A lot of people would just say, hey, just leave it. It's all right, it's barely noticeable. Not me. If I can see it, it's noticeable. It's starting to get a little dark here, but this is coat number 2. Looking better. We almost have full coverage. This is the, well, actually it's the 3rd coat. The 1st coat was the primer. 2nd coat was brown. 3rd coat was brown. But if you'll notice, there's still a little see-through. And this 3rd coat is going to take care of that. So that's what we're going to do next. Go slow. After you've gone around the knob, this is the time you can pull the tape off. See if it looks good. Oh yeah. Got a little paint on the front of it. That's another thing. If you do accidentally get paint on something, being water-based and a latex, it usually scratches off when it's fresh. This is looking really good. Really good coverage. Thin coats. I like to pull the painter's tape off when the paint is still a little wet. Look at that nice clean edge. It just seems to come off better and it doesn't stick to it. The painter's tape doesn't dry to the paint. You can pull part of it off. Just leaves a nice clean edge. Look at that. Perfect. Oh yeah. Nice clean edge. And you want to pull away from it in case it does catch some of the paint. Like right there, it caught it just a little bit, but I can fix that with my artist brush. Pull down and away. Here's some places where the painter's tape pulled a little bit of the paint off. Easy touch up with the artist brush. Just tap, 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 tap. Looks nice. Another thing to have on hand is a razor blade, because any paint you get on the window, you can easily get off this razor blade. I'm glad we did the 4 coats. The 4 coats really gave it a nice coverage. Took a little time, but I think I worked on this, I think it's been about 3 hours is how long it took me to do all this. But, you know, you want it done right, so. Well, this job is complete, and I'm very happy with the result. The door turned out really nice. I appreciate everyone watching until the end. It really does help the channel. Please remember to like and subscribe. Our goal is to try and get 100 subscribers by the end of the year. This is September, so I think we can do it. Well, on to the next adventure. We'll see you next time on Southern Gal DIY.